Hi, I'm Greg Braxton, and welcome to this very lighthearted conversation about shows that deal with death, tragedy, despair, alienation, or whatever. Thank you all for thank you all for coming. But seriously, it seems like dramatic TV more than ever has become like a sounding board for people who are feeling angst in the country right now. I think that you guys all have shows that have touched a nerve, and there's a lot of expression that's going on in your shows about what people are experiencing. And I wanted you all to just sort of talk about that and how your specific shows kind of connect and deal with that. I'll start with you, Milo.
Hotspot.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's this void that you were saying, referencing that everybody's kind of feeling right now in a changing climate, right? Everything is changing, everything's different, things are moving in directions at a speed that we're having a hard time hanging on to that basic humanity. And I know I've had a lot of people walk up to me and say to me, you know, the work you're doing is important. I think a majority of it is escapism, but also it reminds us of, at least on my show, goodness and kindness and a want to connect through all of our differences. So with that, it feels like the right time to just be a human being, you know, and have the human experience and understand, you know, as an actor and as a creative, contributing to that bit of respite from the real world.
Agreed.
How do you feel about it?
I mean, I totally agree with Milo. I think we're just in a place now, not just in our country, but just as a human race, where there are a lot of open wounds. You know, we can't get through something before the next thing happens, and I think with our shows, it offers a space to feel like there are other people that are going through what I'm going through as well, and it's not so scary or it's not so unreal. Because so often we think it's only us, it's only our family, it's only no one else can understand my journey. But especially on your shows, they've managed to do a lot of comedic things. Leftovers is not so comedic, but it's so out there that it makes your mind more open. I think when you deal with things through satire or not hitting it just obviously on the head, you get people more open to the story. And while all of our shows are touch on those really serious subject matter, they're all so different, you know, and I think it's easier to be able to do that in the comfort of your own home than at the movie theater.
Yeah. But I think, you know, human beings collectively, you know, we all have this little box in our house that we all watch, and we all, you know, sort of get our stories through it, and whether that's the political climate or whether that's our news or whatever. For hour-long dramas, in particular, it is a moment where you can sort of shed away, you know, get rid of all that kind of chatter of, you know, red, blue, and all that. And you know, since the beginning of time, you know, when people sat around fireplaces and told stories, you know, that's essentially what you're getting. And you know, fortunately now that networks and cable television in particular has been unburdened by sort of some of the more commercial elements of it. Some of the best storytellers are now gravitating towards television, where it used to be kind of the exclusive domain of movies and, you know, putting an enormous amount of effort to make an hour and a half of something. Now there's this sort of bite-sized, normally sort of 10 to 18 episodes of something you can watch where you can sort of, you know, sort of shed all the other crap that gets pushed on us just through cable news and stuff like that. And become more human, you know, and communicate on a human level, and not have to think about the politics and get more into sort of the emotional, interactions. That's because that's the real storytelling as opposed to sort of picking sides.
I'd just add to, as Justin was talking about, as we've had this broadening of places that we can watch and create television, with how open both network and cable television have become, we've seen very clearly in comedy how there's a lot of heartbreak in it, but it's the same in dramas. I'm looking at a group of people who I know separately from this day, and they're the most hilarious people. So we have this incredible hysteria. Yeah, she's not funny at all. Not one laugh. But we all have this great opportunity to bring humor or irreverence to these broken places too, which I think for each show speaks to why people are so connected to them, because they're also laughing at the heartbreak. And any place that we can find that, as politically subversive as it may also be, it brings humanity to our self-discovery, not just the question of how can that person have that opinion or vote in a certain way, or we're wrestling with how we always are both things in an experience. So that's the fun of, I think, all these shows giving us an opportunity to see both sides.
But with these shows being so, they're so intense, especially, The Leftovers, and you've all done comedy. Being in these types of shows, the old adage, what is it, dying is hard, comedy is, well, whatever, comedy is hard. Dying is easy. Is it really drama is hard? Are you finding more and more that doing this is harder than doing comedy, or is it?
It's a different experience, I think, but I'd love to take credit for how hard it is, but the bar is really set by the showrunners and the writers. They're the ones that have to really, I think, dig deeper than anybody, because they're the ones that are creating a story that's, whatever. I don't find drama. I find it hard, but it's, it's not digging coal, and I also find it slightly cathartic, like it's, and I'm not particularly, I'm not a method actor. I don't take it home with me. I don't live in this space. Unlike Carter, he likes taking home those crazy things. But so I always find it kind of slightly, it exercises something. By the end of the week, when you've had a tough week of really intense stuff to see, I sort of feel lighter at the end of the week and kind of like, oh, nice. I'm glad it's behind me, and I'm glad, that's done. But I find it slightly cathartic, not particularly.
Yeah, I think that with all of the shows, when you're talking about the showrunners and the writers, they found the heart, and when it's coming from the heart, it's, as an actor, it's easier for me to find whoever it is that I'm playing. I'm more excited about creating whoever she is and this backstory, because the writer's been able to find a true place on the page.
It's much harder when it's the opposite is true and the bar is very low for writing, because then you're just polishing a turd trying to I don't even know what they're talking about.
And that goes with comedy and drama.
Yeah, true.
With the heart of it,
Yeah, comedy's grounded in drama.
Yeah.
Some of the funniest performances are just played dead straight, and they're letting the words be funny. No one's slipping on banana peels. They're just kind of saying the words.
Think of
go ahead.
anything's just tapping into a real emotion. While the cameras are rolling, just embodying that character so fully that whatever comes out is supposed to come out.
Come out, right? Because sometimes after a scene, you go, "Whoa!
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming."
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
That was something. To your point of that, it's cathartic.
And usually speaks to the richness of the material.
When you guys are all doing intense scenes, and you've all done really raw scenes of arguing, of fighting, of emotional violence, how do you know when you're hitting it, and how do you know when it's not working, or the other people in the scene aren't giving you what you need to do what you need to do? Is there an instinctual thing that you all know when it's working and when it's not?
I mean, the first thought I just had was, with a great director, when we feel we're in the hands of someone great, I don't think there's ever been a moment, probably I would assume for any of us, that we look up knowing it's not feeling honest or something's not right, and the director's not also going, going again. Like you all feel it together. It is an incredible thing when it's a team, or your cinematographer, like, or your camera operator. Someone's looking right at you, and you're like,
Right.
I mean, we were just talking about, like Regina was saying, just before we started this, we were talking about how she doesn't watch herself on film. And I thought that's crazy, A, because you're brilliant, but B, because she said, either I will think of something that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but essentially, like, I'll think of something that I should have done, could have done, and that might affect what I do the next time, the next day maybe, that I'm in front of the camera, and I'll start second guessing. So she's kind of trying to keep her channel as open as possible, without judging it, I guess. I mean, actors left to their own devices will do the same take over and over again, because they'll never feel like they really stuck the landing, and then it's up to the director to sort of go,
let's pull the plug on it.
Yeah.
We got it.
Come grab you by the face and actually tell you there's nothing more. It's just and you have to trust that director and your co-stars and that kind of eyes in, because if you can just exist from action to cut, then again, it's like just what happens is not even up to you. You're just there in it.
And add to that also
trust.
Yeah, and we all also have a really deep bench of really good actors we're working with, which is the other component. So when she or I'm working on a scene with Carrie Coon, they're returring volleys real hard and real fun. So the volleys get good.
You go into it when it's an actor that you know is, I can't even give the right adjective to describe all of these people here and several actors that I've worked with and thousands of actors out there. But when you come to that scene like, all right,
this is gonna be fun.
This is gonna be fun, regardless of the subject matter. You're coming in even more excited.
It could be the biggest knockout, drag down fight, and you're enjoying it. It could be the most painful experience, but you're enjoying it. You'd be crying your head off, and at the end of it, you're like, well, wasn't that fun?
Speaking of knockdown, drag out fights, your show This Is Us really had an incredible fight, something like I've never seen.
At the end there, Mandy and I,
in between Mandy, who plays your wife. What was that day like doing that scene?
We knew it was coming, and like I said, Mandy Moore and I, my co-star, my TV wife, we were both excited. It was one of those scenes that you get and you think this is going to be so much fun. And our creator, Dan Fogelman, said he scripted it. He wanted to try and shoot it in a oneer. So then you kind of go back to days on the stage and you're like, oh, this is going to be like a play. This is going to be fun. And you're able to build that tension and that anger and that hurt from point one of walking in the door till she walks upstairs out of the room. And so there's this excitement, and then there's the reality of, I need to say these horrible things to someone that I care deeply about. And I need to do it in front of a company of people that I've trusted to look out for me and that I look out for in a given season of television. And then there was this crazy isolating moment where my co-star Mandy and I don't know how you guys are, but our chairs are right next to each other. She's my friend. We sit there and talk all day long, and it was one of those scenes that I knew I couldn't be around her. I couldn't look her in the eye until I was looking her in the eye, having this, hard 20-year relationship argument. And so the first thing I did when I walked on set, I saw her in the room we usually share on the stage of our home. I picked up my chair and I walked out. And I was like, I think that just set the tone of how the day's gonna go. And it was just one of those days where we were in it all day long, and it hurt and it was painful. And the one thing I kept just waiting for was the moment that it was over. I can look at my partner, give her a hug, and be like, I'm so blown away by your work, and then turn to the crew and shake everyone's hand, because it was a moving 24-headed hydra, as we got Billy with the brick light and the cameras are moving around, and it was orchestrated beautifully by our director Ken Olin that day, and our DP Yasu Tani, and it was one of those days that you celebrate, even in the pain. Yeah.
So, and you've all done scenes like that. You had huge fight scene with Reese Witherspoon in Big Little Lies that she's one of your best friends. When
It
you
had
guys,
to be said.
but when
Only
you guys
a friend can say this.
when you guys are doing that and there's all these technicians and the director's yelling cut and something happens and you're in the groove and then something just kind of stops you and you've sort of devoted all this energy to getting it right. What is that? How does that rhythm keep going? How do you keep that rhythm going?
Well, I loved hearing how Milo just described that experience, because I feel like it is such an amazing privilege when you are doing any kind of deeply emotional scene, but something, especially also a fight that could become physical, everything like that. If you have a filmmaker who's dedicated to the ritual of it and creating a group of collaborators to make that ritual, it is like a dance, and emotionally, I feel thrilled to not have a 14 to 19 hour day of 12 different angles of the same fight, because there is a certain point where it is exhausting to go through something if it's really volatile. And to keep the rawness alive by choosing, as he did, to do this in one shot or as close to it. And certainly on Big Little Lies, it's a filmmaker who I had worked with before, Reese and I had worked with before, and he loves to constantly be moving and inventing. They use no light, we move very fast, and only practical light or what exists, and so it's very easy to work that way emotionally because you can improvise and new things happen each time you do it, and it happens in a matter of 4 or 5 hours versus a couple of days, as we've all also done, but it's a different beast.
Also, what Milo says is that the crew is so essential, and when you're doing a series or an extended series, you hopefully have to fall in love with your crew, because essentially, you talk a lot about the scene partner and who you're acting against and blah, blah, blah. But the way we're shooting things now, and there's sometimes cameras right up on you. So our guy Chris Cuevas on Leftovers was just as much of a dance partner as Carrie Coon, because you're having to be emotionally vulnerable or whatever. So they have to be invested into it. Hopefully they like the show, and all our crew I know on Leftovers was very loved our show as much as we did. So when it had to get quiet, it would get quiet. And everything has to work in tandem. It's like launching a rocket ship sometimes. Not literally, but you want every hand on deck, kind of, doing exactly. Talk about Billy holding the brick light. And when those moments happen, where the whole room starts to dance, and the boom guy's ducking and bobbing, and it can feel. It's just sometimes feels great.
It's like music. We're doing these little symphonies, and everybody, the person that plays the triangle is necessary. And if the triangle is not hit at the right time, you have to go back and do it over again. But when everyone there is subscribing to that, to the idea that I want my triangle to be just as strong as the violin, and the violin player wants the triangle player to be just as strong. When everyone is subscribing to that, we're creating these symphonies, these visual symphonies that I just think we feel lucky to be a part of them.
Also when you know the other person is contributing as much as you are.
You are. Mm-hmm.
I always say,
invested.
I'm only as good as the people that I'm in the scene with. The people that I'm in the scene with are great. I'm like, well, then I got to jump up and I got to challenge them, but you do it as a collective process to make everyone look good. You're all there for the show. You're all there for the stories. You're all there for everyone's character in addition to your own. But it's just having this contributing team factor or symphony or a dance or anything where you can't really do it alone.
No,
and that extends all the way to editing. You know, it's
Yeah.
a very
Yeah.
like
Pre-production, post-production.
yeah, music supervision.
Yeah.
You know, like
All
it's
of that.
Even
whenever you
creative.
hear people getting awards, going like, "I'd like to thank the crew." I think they really mean
Yeah.
that's a huge.
And no one does not.
No
but
one-
everyone means that
Yeah,
when they
you know.
say it. Yeah, and that's why you hear it so often, because any actor that you've ever looked at is great. Even if they may not say it often, they know. They feel that I couldn't do this without all of you
Yeah.
guys.
Group effort. Always.
Yeah.
You were talking about working with the crew and especially with close-ups, and one of the amazing things I think about all your performances is that so much of drama seems to be based on close-up now, and there's absolutely no place to hide. You can't fake it, you can't escape it, and all of you communicate so much while the camera is just, sometimes the frame is just full of your face. Is that a scary part of the process when you know that there is absolutely no escape hatch for your performance?
Okay. So the vanity comes in here. So when they made the switch over to HD.
Oh boy.
Thanks, whoever.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
The first time I saw myself, I was like,
That's not me.
I don't have that. Which surely there was a bad light or
There's a
something.
trick you can do where you
Yeah.
lean into the camera, really stretch it.
So at first, yes, I went into it feeling like great until I came in for some looping and was like, yo, what? He's like, it's not color corrected yet. Okay. So this is one of the rare times when I decided to watch. And I was like, it was on Southland. But the beauty of it is, I think it made me an even better actor because it made me really say, F it. I shouldn't even be worrying about a line or a wrinkle or that something looks harder, because I'm part of the storytelling. And that character is, I'm not playing a woman that's worried about that. So, Regina, get out of your way. So, as where one might think, for me personally, it was scary at first once I realized what it looked like, but it was freeing once I was like, yeah, I'm not even, it's what it is.
I think it also might be just like a practical issue. These people consume television, now on things that are this big. You never.
That helps.
Most people don't.
Literally the things you
Watch
worry
it
about
on your
are
iPhone.
so small.
Watch
My
it on
wife
your
to put the
Samsung.
phone across the room and watch the show from there.
Yeah.
No, I think that's
great.
true. It's like they, these aren't going to be on, for the most part, unless you're premiering the show or something. It's not going to be on an 80-foot screen. It's not IMAX, So, and most people are consuming it on a much smaller screen. So I think partly it's, that's where you want to be, just to translate whatever they've written.
Laura, how do you?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm really going to digress. So I don't know how we make this a short thing, but all I can think about when you said sometimes the camera is like right up on you. We have my favorite memory of the experience of a close-up.
Oh, yeah? I know what you're going to say.
We did a movie together, and our director, David Lynch, was holding the camera handheld and really wanted this beautiful
'Twas a love scene.
close-up of feeling their kiss,
Yeah.
of the two of these people coming together, and it had to be so romantic, and we're there and our faces are coming together and he's coming into the kiss, and suddenly, as our eyes close and we're coming together, we feel something weird and we don't know what it is. And you take over.
on your
So
forehead.
then we start feeling like a dunk.
Oh my God.
Dunk.
Oh no!
And he's operating the camera and he's banging into our head. We're like, hey man, I want to just back the camera.
You gotta hold it away. You're too close.
And he's like, shh, stop it, just keep going, stop it. This is amazing.
So there are limits to the
Right.
Yeah.
To the close-up.
That's a great story.
Usually the camera and like the crew is invisible, but if they're actually physically in
Yeah.
their space, maybe
Yeah.
it's a little hard.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was fantastic.
I just got to put like sensors on the end of the map box.
Yeah,
Just
the
like those
beats,
little
yeah. Like with the
beats.
car, when you
Yeah.
park.
Reverse tractor beats, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the fact that Justin said you don't watch yourself. Do you watch yourself, and how does that help?
I watch myself only to try and do something better next time, but I won't get so critical with the performance that I'm thinking, God, I wish I didn't do that, or man, I got to make sure I don't do that. I think I just watch it out of a little curiosity, because you do take after take after take after take, and then there's what gets edited in, and there's the scene that you build in your mind, and then there's what is real and is delivered to an audience. And I think I'm always curious just to see the aspect of, I know how I read it, I know how I performed it, but how is it told in story? You know, given that with the editing and the scene and what's the goal of the scene. So I think I watch it just for the entertainment's sake. I have to remove myself and know that the story is what's important, and maybe this one thing that I was missing or this one thing that I really enjoyed, it's all just for the bigger aspect of the show. So I guess I watch. I guess I watch. I guess that's the long and short.
I watch. Our show's, largely an ensemble, so it's, there's definitely scenes that I'm obviously not in, and there's things, and I'm also fascinated. There's things that I'm also not getting in the making of the show. So, and I'm not hearing the music when we're shooting the scene. I'm not seeing the editing. I'm not seeing the lighting. So I really do watch. I'll do a little watching just to see. Oh, maybe I could have changed this, and try and learn something about just acting. But just as much as I do that for myself, I'll do it with other actors. Because watching Regina and Carrie Coon work together is like,
together.
oh my God! Imagine if we just hybrided you guys, be like a super actress. They do astounding work. So of course I want to see it, and I want to sort of see the overall arc of our show. So I love watching everyone's work.
Yeah.
So maybe just watch my scenes. That's what
That's pretty much what he's saying. So much me.
Laura, people just went nuts over Big Little Lies. What do you think people really gravitated towards? Was it the relationships with the women? Was it the murder? Was it just the pedigree of the project, seeing such high-powered actresses just really go at it? What do you think people really got into?
I mean, maybe I should answer for myself. Speaking of what made me get into it was, first of all, there were 5 actresses in anything together. That was already, I was like,
let's
wait,
start
what?
there.
Where do we go? Who's hiring all of us to be in one thing?
Yeah.
So that was amazing.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of women certainly connected to just the idea of seeing a number of stories of women together and how they interweave and interact in each other's lives. That was fantastic. And I think culturally, it's an exciting moment and it was an exciting moment to be part of something as women where we were examining women on a very deep level and honoring them on a deep level at a time that we felt we weren't being seen in the way we wanted to be seen politically, culturally. And so just as an actress working on it at that time, it was amazing, and playing a character that was, I think, perceived because of her intellect, power, and ability to even be scathing in a world of men, that she must be cold, the B word, a bad mother. And we were filming it during our last election. And so that was an amazing part to be playing and see what labels we put on women when they're powerful and when they're coming up against the men. for certain jobs, and you know, whether it's the corporate world or the banking world or politics. So that was a really interesting thing to be part of, and because of that, I think for me when I watch it, I loved as an audience thinking I knew someone and judging them and then being ashamed at my own judgments. And any time television or film can do that, it's the great reckoning. So I'm excited to be part of something that I think did that with most of the characters that we thought we knew or felt jealous of, and then realized they were in the most broken circumstances.
One thing that in watching The Leftovers, sometimes I just feel such angst for your character, because for 2 seasons, Kevin has been so tortured and just gone through so much. This season, you're getting ready to say goodbye to this character. What has this journey been like for you? The trajectory of playing someone who just seems so tortured.
I think, you know, I mean, I think, you know, he's the character is really sort of the aperture through which we're Damon and Tom are trying to sort of explain the human condition. There's lots of religious themes in our show. You know, you can make comparisons to Job. You know, like, and the whole overall arc of the show is sort of this: why do we go on? What makes us get out of bed in the morning? You know, why do we? You know, what is the point of living? I mean, it's a very kind of what is the meaning of life type show, and obviously, that's impossible to answer. No artist has been able to answer it. No painter, no composer. So it's a. But what you can do is you can just sort of pique up questions about that, and he does it throughout all his characters. You know, I wouldn't say there's any character that gets off easy in our show. You know, they're all put on the crucible at some point or another. So I feel like, you know, for my personal character, it's not hard to say goodbye to the character. I mean, I loved the character. I loved playing the character. But I would never want it to go on and on and on, you know, and have it be serialized. I would never want to put Damon and Tom in the position of going like, oh boy, we got to come up with another season because we've been picked up, and I guess we'll just put you through some more hell. You know, like, I think they really did craft a beautiful sort of, you know, triptych of television that, you know, is in 3 chapters, has a beginning, a middle, and I know you're probably not at the end yet, but has an astounding ending. I think is an astounding ending, where they've really just created this beautiful arc, you know, for everybody, you know, not just my character. So yeah, I'm happy to say goodbye. I'm bittersweet because I loved working with almost everyone to a man and woman on the show, and won't get to see them as often as I'd like in that day-to-day way.
Need that to go away.
Get that off of me.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Get it. But happy to, you know, very proud of all the work that we all did. You know,
Is it more challenging for you to play him tortured, or he seems to be going towards some semblance of peace now, although we don't know.
You don't know.
What's going to happen. No, okay, trouble.
No,
Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
Is it more hard to play him troubled
or more? I mean, like, he seems a little more grounded now.
No, I think it's, you know, one of the weirdest episodes we ever did was this flashback episode where nothing particularly bad was happening. It was like the prologue to, you know, our entire show. Now I think I have flies all over me all the time. Sort of the prologue to our show, where I remember thinking when we shot that episode, like, nothing's really happening, but actually in the editing and when it was all strung together, something really was happening. But I enjoyed the part just because it was constant. It was a very elastic part. There was nothing there was no sort of, or at least for me as an actor, there were all these notes that I got to try and hit, you know, throughout the entire series. Which was just kept me very elastic, you know, and challenged me, you know. So, you know, at a certain point that has to end, and I'm looking forward to the next thing. Although now I've been reading stuff and being like, oh,
It's
really?
hard. That's
Such a heartbeak when you
It
finish
is.
something good and
It
you're very
is.
happy with it, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
the
I
next
mean, and you know, don't hold out.
yeah.
Hold out. Because the beauty of Leftovers, it ended. It's going to end
Yeah.
on a high note. You know, you're going out like.
Yeah.
opposed to, yeah, that show should have ended like 2 seasons ago.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying goodbye. You've said hello to 3 different women on American Crime. This season, you had a really heartbreaking scene. Your character Kamara is a social worker who is trying to get pregnant, and she's also trying to help a very troubled teenage girl who is very resistant to her efforts. And there was a scene where she's getting the teenager is getting a sonogram, and you're just looking, and you convey so much in your face because you can see the pain of you looking at someone where it's so easy, you know, she has what you want, and you've done so much to try and get that, the expense and the pain and all of that, but yet it's so easy for this other girl who may or may not, you know, be deserving of this situation. What was it like doing that scene? Because it was just an awesome
Well,
scene.
thank you very much. I feel like, although in that scene we're talking about a woman who really wants children and a young girl who the last thing she feels she needs to deal with is a child, being a mom, that and Kamara's desire to be in her position, I felt like when we received that script that moment is a universal moment, because I think there are a lot of instances that you can point out across, no matter what your culture is, no matter what culture we're in, man or woman, where you're looking at someone that has something you want, but you can't have because of your circumstances, and it's painful to watch, you know. And I think that obviously a lot of women can relate to that moment, but I think people can relate to that moment because of that. So it was, you know, it's a heartbreaking thing to look at something that you want, can't have, but you still have to be there for them. You know, in some circumstances, people can probably walk away from, you know, I'm not even gonna have anything to deal with that because it brings out too much emotion for me. But here, this woman, Kamara, she represents a lot of our heroes that don't get, our heroines that don't get the light shined on them, because they're constantly giving of themselves. And in Kamara's case, turns out that she's losing some of herself, and that's sad. It's a sad thing, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, but I felt like it was an opportunity to not just represent these 2 women, but people that are in these positions.
Milo, you have the lightness and the darkness of Jack, and so many. First of all, so many fans of the show are interested in knowing how
Jack died.
how your character, and that seems to be kind of a sticking point with you. What?
Because at times I feel like a television audience is a little fickle, especially given the time that we live in. Social media, whatnot, people want everything now. There's not that reverence of waiting, you know, when you kind of send something in the mail and you got to wait for the mail to come back to you. So I think that knowledge of knowing Jack is deceased in the present day, but not knowing how yet, people's desire to lock onto that and want to know that. I always tell them, I said, listen, don't worry about how he lived or how he died. Focus on how he lived. Think about how the man lived. That's the more interesting journey. and also knowing that within the parameters of my character already being deceased in the present day, but yet I'm still working on the show. People are like, well, you're not going anywhere. I'm like, no, I'm still around, and there's still a whole bunch of stories of Jack and his wife and his kids at all these different multiple ages to play with. So I just try and turn the dial a little bit when people approach me and say to me, oh man, I really want to know how Jack died. And I said, just worry about how he lived, and you'll learn how he died, but that's not going to be the most important thing about the man. The most important thing about the man is how he impacts his kids, which you see in the present day. And then beyond that, how he impacts his wife, who you see in the present day. And I don't know, I think it's a more lasting memory to understand how a human being has lived and inspired the people around them than that one singular moment of how they passed away. So that's kind of how I approach it, at least with people walking up and talking to me about it.
That brings up another point when you talk about social media, and all of you are veterans. All of you have been around before social media got into it, and spoiler alerts and people wanting to find out what's happened. I want to get your individual feelings on how you process that or how you deal with it, and does it help? Is it annoying? Is it how do you deal with the social media aspect of this, especially knowing that this didn't used to exist?
I think there's a value in the marketing of a show and the understanding of, you can call it ancillary content to what the main story is. I oftentimes think about social media or press or anything that needs a balance, because if I personally am in the spotlight more than what my characters are people going to believe the characters that I'm playing because they're not seeing the version of me, Milo? So I try and always kind of like pull that back and minimize that, just so that my characters are more believable. When you're watching TV, you're not seeing Milo, you're seeing Jack or whoever else. So I think it's a measured balance where you're using social media just like the press or marketing. It's all going toward the greater awareness of, hey, why don't you come watch our story? But I think when it takes over and it's too much and it's too in your face, then it starts to ruin the magic of the storytelling and what that 44 minutes or 58 minutes or 60 minutes of that program is. And then it's like, well, what was it all for in the first place?
Right.
You must have dealt with that quite a bit with Big Little Lies and all the speculation about who was dead and who killed him and all of that. But there are other projects that you're involved with other projects, Twin Peaks and Star Wars, and so how do you deal with that?
Well, I agree. I mean, like Milo, it's certainly an amazing platform, and we watch it in the world of music. I mean, it's a paradigm shift. Like there's more ownership than ever. You can, introduce the world to your own music and frankly your own digital media or your own film. So I see the benefits, but the one, and certainly for the release of a film and all of that, it's fantastic. It's just more word of mouth. And but in paying tribute, if I may, to this amazing, brilliant, beautiful woman that we're sharing this moment with, who I had the privilege of working with years ago, I love hearing you talk about how to be more genuine as an actor and how to forget about the face and be in the moment. And I wonder, being part of a generation of women who struggle with whatever, and men who struggle with whatever we struggle with. Now that I'm raising kids, I'm watching how social media is defining that someone is watching at all times. You should care. If you care enough, you'll have more followers. If you wear the awesome thing or hang out with the right people, and so what is the sense of loss to truly be oneself and let all of that go away? And it takes bravery also to go, I'm going to be in my truth because I'm a storyteller.
Right,
and that's
right.
gorgeous because she's amazing. But I hope that, I hope there's a generation of kids that, you know, as filmmakers and actors and writers and musicians are also wanting to escape the story, the false story, and be in the deep story when they need to tune out.
I think that's going to happen regardless. I mean, the truth is, you know, listen, none of us get out of here alive, you know, and we can't, you know, and, you know, I can't play Hamlet anymore, but someday we'll be able to play King Lear, you know, like, so I think it's, the sooner you accept, like, that's going to happen, then the easier your life is going to be on a set, because then if you're starting to just put cardboard or, you know, styrofoam all around you, your performance is going to suffer. As far as social media goes, it's like, at its best, social media is great for fans to discuss things amongst themselves. You know, you know, ideally, you know, if people are tweeting or Instagramming about a show, they're essentially having, you know, the lobby discussion you would have after you've seen a good play or a movie on the walk home. You know, so it's just to me an extension of that. You know, as far as I learned long ago, I don't check myself on social media. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause the first time you do that, you go, "Oh, this is really." And talk about, you know, not watching your own stuff. You're having. I mean, it's, you know, it's walking through the high school looking for the bully. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. They're
like,
keyboard
I need someone to
gangsters.
bully me right now. So, you know, like, so I don't go on it. You know, I might drop a little picture on Instagram of, you know, something cool on set that I think, you know, doesn't spoil anything, but might enhance the experience. But hopefully it's you know there's been, especially shows with any kind of mystery or whatever, that discussion, forget promoting the show, is vital to trying to figure something out. Or a show like Leftovers, you know, people trying to sort out the meaning of what they saw, or a Lynch movie, you know, like, so in that sense it's you know, it's great because it's like having you know, an assembly of people kind of just, you know, sometimes on a grand scale of discussing a show and trying to have a better understanding of what they just saw, you know.
We're coming up on a period that might be a tense one in Hollywood, a potential writer's strike, and I think you all experienced it, what it was like before, and I wanted to get your feelings about what may be coming up and what your recollections were about what happened years ago when it was just such a disturbing time in Hollywood.
I don't really remember. I mean, I know that it happened, and I remember that it happened, but it's just like, I mean, in all honesty, we're coming up on our contracts as actors, and I think we're kind of thinking about that a bit, you know. We're all blessed to be working actors, and you know, there are a lot of writers that are blessed to be working writers, but a lot of the points and things that come up in these contract negotiations are our fellow actors or fellow writers are dealing with, and we're standing strong for all of us. I remember that it had happened, but because we survived it, you know, I forgot until now that we're upon the possible writer's strike again. So I guess there's that part of me that feels like we're gonna survive it again. And look, the shows that are up and running right now, they're rushing these scripts to get them in.
I'll tell you, I remember the last writer's strike because I remember we were at the tail end of shooting Tropic Thunder, and we were doing, you know, we write through a movie. I remember doing a blistering, you know, 3 days coming up to the first writer's strike, trying to get all these sort of alt jokes and different changes in and to submit them so that we could finish our shooting of a film. That being said, strikes are devastating to an industry, you know, and that's not just, you know, I'll be fine. I'll probably survive a writer's strike, but you have to remember, you know, crews who work on a week-to-week basis, you know, or paycheck to paycheck. Some people, it's really devastating to them.
It's also the industry support teams. Think
Well,
about
everything.
dry
it's like
cleaners
it's.
and-
you
But
know,
I guess what
from
I was saying is we
Teamsters on down.
survived it. Like
We definitely- and we'll survive this if there is a strike.
I don't think it's going to be 100 days.
No,
That was long.
I think that was a really unique
Yeah.
situation.
Hopefully lesson learned so that the people that are at the table sitting there having the conversations, they can quickly come to a resolution that doesn't damn or completely benefit one side. It's a negotiation. You may not walk away from it saying, well, we got everything, or I feel totally slighted, we didn't get everything. It's kind of have a progressive conversation. I even think about this with actors, and the Screen Actors Guild, of course, renegotiated their contract. It's, guys, walk into the conversation willing to bend and fold and flex, but also know that we have to continue. We have to move on, not only for our jobs, but also for people that are wanting to escape whatever life or have a wish fulfillment or some kind of experience with the stories that we're telling. It's not just us in this, it's people that are devouring and watching all of the shows that we're a part of that are impacted.
And also it's that thing of, the writers are in a difficult position because the contracts that they have, and it was the same for actors a while ago. There's so much new technology, streaming, how you watch, how you deliver your content, how you get your content, how you receive your residual payments, how you blah, blah, blah. These problems didn't exist when some of these contracts were made. So a writer who is booked to do a year on a television show and is getting paid on a per episode basis didn't know that they were going to do, I'm only doing 10 episodes, but yet you're trying to lock me up for the entire year or 2 years on 10 episodes. How do I survive on 10 episodes? So
these are the same things we're about to face with our contracts. The same exact thing.
It's tricky, and look, there's a very big pie, but you don't want to bludgeon the people around, that extend out from the industry, and that goes, down all from top to the bottom, like of people who depend on this machine to keep running.
Yeah, I think that point that you two made is the biggest point that, and I didn't even think about that when I first started talking, that how many people that are affected that aren't writers when it comes to the writer's strike, or that aren't actors when it comes to, negotiations for actors, that if, when the strike, if a strike happens, what happens to all of those people? So the message of, yes, we're trying to get what you want or what you need, but it's a picture that's so much bigger than what it looks like in the New York Times in a quick article.
I was going to say that, what's gotten by the general public would be, the writers are striking. But if you hear that there is nothing that's wanted in terms of a strike, the efforts to avoid a strike have been unparalleled, and yet the fight is over an outrageously small amount of money. So hopefully that word gets out more and more, that it's like everything has been attempted, and it's about appropriate respect. It's not even about really making money.
And
with
a lot of
this
times
new
the point that we
landscape.
just made will be used to bludgeon the writers.
Right,
You really want to put everybody?
But you know what, I
want to
think-
put the valet over at Paramount lot out of work, writers?
Yeah,
Okay, and
yeah.
so it's, it's emotional and it's financial.
But 10 years ago, there weren't as many writers probably who are also in the Producers Guild. So you have, I think, more people that are on both sides of the conversation, that I'm hoping it'll make it, these conversations come out where both sides will feel more victorious, because you have more people that are on both sides now, because there are more outlets to show content. I hope. But we're gonna survive it. Like I said, we're gonna survive it.
Well, with that, I can't. I want to thank you all. All your performances are just incredible. enthralling, layered, and congratulations on all your shows, and
Thank you.
thank you very
Kind
much.
of you. Thank you.
Thank you.